Hi everyone, it's Ruth. So this is the other video I promised. I'm going to show you how I do a gradient design, kind of talk a little bit about how I get a gradient smooth and how I pick the colours, and I'm going to use Uber Chic Plate 2503 from the new collection. I've not tried this one out yet. And I think I might use these spirally patterns. There's so many different matching ones that it will make an interesting design over something as plain as a gradient. There's 5 different patterns, so ultimately I can do 5 completely different nails, but they'll match. Do you see? So when I'm a nail tech, that's the kind of thing that I think will be really useful about Uber Chic plates, so I'm really happy to have these. Okay, the colours I have chosen. As mentioned in the previous video, quite often I'll just do a gradient of, let me think, let's do it that way around. Quite often I'll do a gradient using colours next to each other on the colour wheel. And that's what these are to me. So we've got yellow, bright orange, kind of a tomato red, kind of orange red, and a deep, plummy, almost purpley red. It's called Raspberry by Barry M, but I think it's more of a almost plum, yeah, almost burgundy or wine, red wine colour. Anyway, these will make a really smooth gradient, and I know that because they're all quite opaque polishes. And I just think it will be quite interesting because there's quite a big contrast between the 2 end colours, but the 2 in the middle smooth it evenly. You can do gradients with more kind of opposing colours. It's harder to blend them, and it will end up looking more like colour blocking rather than a gradient to my mind. But anyway, I usually do colours quite close to each other like this. And I decided that I will stamp, maybe double stamp, with black and gold. This gold is by Hit the Bottle. It's called Calypso Gold. It's beautiful. It's kind of a pale, almost silvery gold. It's like a neutral gold. It's not too yellow or too greeny. Very pretty gold. And just a black stamping polish. This one's from Born Pretty Store, but I'm not that picky with black stamping polishes. I've never found a very, very bad black stamping polish. I suppose because black in itself is such an opaque colour. But anyway, I digress. I will start with taking off this colour. Also, little word about sponges. I use these sponges from the discount shop. Discount UK it's called, or I think they're part of the Pound World brand. These are £1 for a sack that has maybe 30 sponges in, but some of them are round cosmetic sponges you might use in a powder compact for your face makeup. I only really use these wedge ones for gradients. And instead of throwing it away once I've used it, I use this with the Woodland Chic plate. I'll use some scissors and just chop it off. And I can use that one maybe 3 or 4 times. So it saves a little bit of money and the environment, I like to think. It's still quite wasteful, but don't judge me. I also use liquid latex to mask the skin off, but I buy a big bottle, same with the Seche Vite top coat, because it will last. This bottle that I got off eBay was about £6 and it has lasted me 2 years, at least a year and a half. It's just clear when it dries, kind of an orangey clear colour because it has no dye in it. I didn't want to buy one with a dye because I thought maybe the dye would stain my fingers. But from what I've seen with other people buying coloured latex, it doesn't stain your fingers. It's designed for use cosmetically on the face to do like special effects, monster makeup, that kind of thing. So it's quite safe to use it on your hands, although some people are allergic to latex, and in that case maybe use tape, such as this is quite dirty tape with hair on it. If you can see all the fuzz because it's been sat on my desk for ages. Scotch tape's quite gentle because it's not really that sticky. So if I do a water marble, I'll use Scotch tape instead of latex usually. I just find it easier. Yeah, that's the basics of what I'll use. For the gradient as well, I'll use the yellow as a base because it's the palest colour in the gradient, and also I won't get that white ring around the top of the finger if the top coat shrinks, which inevitably every top coat I've ever tried shrinks a little bit at least. And the reason I really like Seche Vite, even though it does have a tendency to shrink, is it doesn't smudge my stamping as much as some top coats. It's really quite easy to float it over, probably because it's quite a thick even when it's a freshly topped up bottle or you've used Seche Restore in it. This is the nail polish thinner. It is still quite thick and viscous, and so it doesn't allow the bristles to touch the stamping. So that's my theory as to why that one works so well. And the matte top coat, I don't have any particular preference for this. I've never found a really bad one. I was kind of let down. I bought this Morgan Taylor one because I thought, oh, it's slightly more expensive than Barry M. It'll be really cool, and it is. It's a thinner texture when you first put it on, which is nice because I put it over so many layers of nail polish. But it started to make little white specks on my nails and I've worked all that time on the design, and then there's white flecks on it and there's nothing I can do about it, and it just ruins the design. I have to start again. So I've gone back to Barry M. It's trustworthy. You can usually get it on offer. I got this bottle and 2 others, buy 2 get 1 free, and it's only, I think, $2.99 anyway, possibly $3.99, but it's a good deal. I stick with this one because also I have to watch how much it costs because of how much of it I use. If you're not as obsessed with nails as me, you might not get through as much of it as fast as I do. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do 4 of the nails off camera, and I'll come back and show each step of how I did it, talking through it again, I think, because I normally would put subtitles over on the screen and not speak, but I'm trying to get more comfortable speaking on the camera, speaking on YouTube, because why not? I'll talk more in a little bit. For you it'll be an instant, for me it's going to take maybe an hour and I'll be back. Okay, so you can see what I've come up with for the design. So I've got the gradient and the black with gold stamping over the top. I'm going to show how I do the gradient, and then maybe it will help me to think what to say, because otherwise, you know, it's just me sitting here listing things with nothing for you to look at. So I've got the lint roller here that I use for my stamping. I'm going to take the sponge, which I've chopped the end from the sponge, and I'm going to take the sponge and put it over the lint roller, because you might be able to see there's lots of little fluffs, just because I have a dusty house. You might not have such a dusty house as me. I have 2 cats and I'm not very house proud. But you don't want to get any little bits of fuzz, if you can help it, in the gradient, and that will help to keep it smooth when you're working on it. And then I also need to put some liquid latex around my finger. I've put a base coat and a coat of the yellow polish to start the gradient with. Oh, this latex bottle needs refilling. It's all lumpy and dried up. I literally don't know where that accent came from. Go round the nail and kind of underneath the back a little bit. Can you see? It just helps because the sponge will press round usually. And I've got my 4 colours. I'll just let that dry a little bit first. So when I'm starting the gradient, I get the sponge ready. I get my polishers, all the bottles are open here at my side, and I'll start with the lightest colour just to try and stop transfer between the brushes. Start with the yellow. When I'm using yellow in a gradient, I'll tend to put more of it than I really want to show up on the gradient, because it's kind of easy for that colour to get lost and to blend away into the deeper colours, and it will tend to come out smaller. And what I like to do as well is make the top colour wider so that I can put this deeper colour exactly the size I want it, and I can put the bottom of the sponge to the edge of my nail. Might not be the case if you have pointed nails, but because my nails are square, I can get it up to the edge, and then I know that the lines are straight. And anyway, so I kind of overlap the colours and I put on a couple of layers of it so that it will, because when the sponge is fresh like this, it soaks up a lot of polish comparatively. It's not that much really. And then I'll stamp like so. I usually stamp quite up and down to start with, and then as I build the layers I'll move side to side and up and down a bit more this way, not just up and down vertically. Up and down the nail plate, what's the right word? I can't remember the other word for that. Vertically and horizontally. So we go horizontal across the nail and vertical up the nail and tap 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 straight down. So I'll continue to do that. It might take maybe 3 layers with these because yellows tend to be quite sheer, and I want to make sure this gradient between the orange here and the light orange and the yellow is smooth. Just had a thought. Sometimes to intensify the bottom colour of the nail, because it's going over a much paler colour in theory sometimes, I'll take the edge of the sponge where the deeper colour is and I'll just tap it on the end to make that part deeper. It's very subtle, but it makes a difference, I think. While the gradient is slightly tacky, I like to try and release it a little bit from the latex so that the latex is still there when I stamp over it to protect my skin, but then it's easier to clean up with the acetone when I remove the latex in a little bit. Okay, that's a step I didn't even realise I did until I was filming it today.